Hello and welcome to the Heart of the Matter. My name is Omotayo.
And I'm Dupo Ayo Adesi. And today we have one of our favorite people, I dare say, who's just kind of paving the way and doing some amazing new things that I think a lot of us can learn from. We have amazing Nere Teriba. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. We're so excited. And I feel like the audience will understand it once we kind of delve into it. You are the CEO of Kian Smith Refineries. I'm just trying to make sure I'm actually getting it right.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And you have recently been the only ones ever in Nigeria to have a refining license.
Well, I guess it's better to say that we are the, pioneer company to get the refining license. So I'm sure there will be others.
There will be others after.
Coming, yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I want you to take us through the journey. There was a lab, an economic lab thing. Please tell us that story. Actually.
Okay. So the Economic Recovery Growth Plan, there's one for Nigeria. And it's more about trying to, should we say, remove the roadblocks from projects that could be an economic game changer for the country. So they had set up a focus lab, call them focus labs, in several sectors. So the mining, manufacturing sector, we were just kind of merged there. So we've been working, I guess, for a few years on many initiatives in the gold space. And to cut a long story short, one of the things that we looked and identified and said is like, look, we need to be refining gold in Nigeria. And for that to happen, there needs to be policy around that, meaning there needs to be regulation, because there's no regulation, there's no framework, there's no nothing for that. And even the central bank as well should also have a role in that, to be an off-taker, you know, for gold as well. So we took that whole thing to the Focus Lab because it needed policy. So the ARGP Focus Labs were really key in getting the policy need addressed. And when that was addressed, we were able now to get that first license to refine.
Right.
So yeah, and so right now we're still in the construction phase, advanced, but yeah, so the project is underway.
Exciting.
It's just like you thought about it, then you created the policy, then you created the framework, and then you partook of it. So it's that process of, even though what you wanted did not exist, you were part of creating it so that it could then exist.
Yeah.
And even just right on the back of that, you know, what I find so fascinating, I'd like for you to talk about that a little bit, is the importance of integrity. That's what I hear from that, is that you wanted to do something, but you took the initiative and said, you know what, if I'm going to do this thing, we need to set up regulations and policies. And a lot of people who would just bypass all of that and just say, I'm just going to do it. And it would have been easier to do that. But you almost like created rules for your own self so that you could be accountable in a way. And that takes a very high level of integrity to do that when it's just you and you really don't need to be accountable to anyone. So can you speak about the importance of integrity when it comes to
It's interesting that you call it integrity. I mean, I've never actually looked at it that way before. I guess for me, the way I look at things is you can make money. If the goal is just to make money, then like you said, just do what you need to do. Actually, several people, even in government positions, told me that we don't see what your issue is. Just go and build a refinery. Do what you need to do. It's even in a better place where you have no regulations. But we felt no. For me, the whole goal is about development. And for something to be of value, to affect GDP, to affect your country, to put us on the map, it has to be regulated. It's not about money. You know, it's about developing the value chain. It's about putting Nigeria on the map. It's about developing a gold market center. And things like that, the numbers. Part of the issue for us in gold in Nigeria is there's leakages everywhere. Data leakage, financial leakage. So if you don't put things in a good structure, where it's formalized, where it's regulated, then the data is missing, because we can't get investment into this space, you know, because everything is underground. So part of the issue we found in our sector is so much happens underground. You find people tell me, it's gold, Nigeria, is it legal? Are you sure what you're doing is legal? It's because of these things. People, so the truth is the development we need really in Nigeria long-term, the jobs, the GDP, the numbers that matter to us as a country, it's not going to happen if we stay under. So for me, I made up my mind a long time ago that, you know, I can make money, but if I'm going to do some things, there's no point in just making money and then everything else is suffering.
You know, the interesting thing is when we keep thinking about the opportunities that there are in this country, we keep the problems that we say there are not really the problems. It's like you go into refining gold and then you find the problems and then you keep providing solutions. But then it's like Peter and James when Jesus called them and was like, cast your net on the other side, and it was so heavy that they had to call other people. I feel like that's how God wants the opportunities to be, that it's too much for one person. Other people have to be able to tap into it. And it's interesting because going back to even how you went through the process of creating the structure so that you could work in it. If there's no structure that can carry it, it'll crash.
You know, let me share something that's interesting, something I feel very strongly. The new Nigeria that's under, that people may not see, it's like the journey of gold. It has to withstand fire. So I think we've gone through a lot of opposition. It's taken a while, but it's necessary because gold is refined and purified in fire. The more fire you have, the impurities rise to the surface and you scoop it out. So I feel like this thing to stand, if we're really building new structures, a new economy, a gold economy for Nigeria, it has to be able to stand well. And the way it's going to stand is that you have to empower many. Everyone has to be affected. And the thing about poverty, I've learned, or the poor, it's, if you notice there's this trend, well, I don't see it so much in Nigeria, but selling little things that someone can afford. Like maybe, I remember I first found this out when I was in South Africa. A woman may not be able to buy a pack of sanitary towels. She can just buy 2 a day. They sell little packs of 2 a day because that's what she can afford to buy. Now, economies of scale, she may pay more in the long run, but that market, because the truth is there's a market for people that can, more people that can afford a $1 item than the market for the people who can afford a $100 item. So the truth of the matter is any service or need or empowerment that addresses people in need will stand the test of time. That's the new Nigeria. If it's not addressing the poor or people who are under, it's not going to stand the test of time. Because that's the majority. That's the way I see it, on one hand. Then on the other hand, it's this, like we're saying, the way Nigeria is going, the new economy, even the divisions, we won't talk about herdsmen. It's interesting that in our line of work, we've seen something that are interesting. And I find that most of these miners, interestingly enough, are northern. They're mostly Fulani, some are Hausa, but mostly Fulani. They're from the north, they're mostly. But they're all over the country mining. And there's sometimes like the stereotypes, because the truth is until I was out in the field really dealing with people across states, sometimes the stereotype thinking they're just herdsmen. They don't work. And I'm thinking, well, not the ones I know. The Fulani guys I know, they enter the ground 10 meters. They patiently go in, they come out, they patiently pan and extract the gold. So even in this line of work, I've been confronted, you know what I mean, with the different sides of Nigeria and realizing, like we're saying, how much of a difference would this make in the world if all these people who are working so hard were empowered? How would that change security? How would that change so many things that we're dealing with on top? But because the bottom is not being addressed. So in many ways, I feel like initiatives that will go down, trickle down to meet the real needs down, because it's really hard to find a Nigerian that is not ready to work. Even the ones I think just want to beg, they're using their brain, they're working hard in figuring out how not to do the physical labor. But most Nigerians I find are industrious and they're ready to figure out a way to come out.
Some people may not understand why it is so important or why we believe that it is so significant that you are in this sector at all. But one thing I believe this is about, because you talked about CBN, you talked about GDP. Can you share with us the vision of why you are in gold? From the faith vision, the reason, the impact that you believe that this has the ability to create?
I'm going to go a little all over the place. And it's interesting if you look at the history of West Africa, I'm not sure if you're familiar with a guy called Mansa Musa. There's even some debate. Some people think that he was richer than Solomon. But the richest man in the world, ever historically, was from West Africa. The king of Mali then, Mansa Musa. He apparently crashed the price of gold on his way to Mecca in Egypt because he was giving gold out. Gold was so abundant. Yes, you could look it up. Gold became so abundant, the price of gold crashed. That's the history of West Africa for gold. Then you look at Kano. I mean, Kano's survived, but Kano, even till now, it's not a formal, it's not a formal, let me be careful how I say this. It has a gold market. It's thriving in its own way. You have about 20,000 unique visitors that come to Kano, the Sabongari market, daily to buy gold from across West Africa, jewelry. So when you look at, and even now, I think Ghana is now the largest producer of gold in Africa. It's past South Africa. If you look at the whole West African region, we're top 3 in the world for gold production. So when you look at this, you realize, okay, Africa is producing gold, especially, let me come back to West Africa. Of the 15 countries in ECOWAS, there's only 3 that are not notable, that we could say maybe they don't have gold reserves: Cape Verde, Benin, and Togo. But Benin and Togo are strong gold trading routes. I mean, they're strong trading routes anyway, so they are involved in gold trade. So maybe just Cape Verde. So at the end of the day, you realize, looking at West Africa, we have ECOWAS. We already have this economic treaty going alongside. And you think about mineralization, and especially like gold, they don't follow borders. Gold is where it is. I call them gold veins. The veins of gold just spread across West Africa. So realizing that, and part of the reason why we're having the issues with smuggling and all the issues that we're having is just because we're not taking advantage of what we already have. We have ECOWAS. We have ways we can sit down and unify policy. It's interesting that if you're looking at the gold market centers in the world, there's none in Africa, not even South Africa. There is no gold market center in Africa. But there's gold market centers in India, China, Russia, Europe, the US, and Africa is just dark. But we produce all that gold.
Right.
You know, like I said, so it's making no sense. So what we're looking at now is a way to bring everything together. An economic renaissance for gold, a cultural renaissance for gold as well. And that's coming to jewelry. So it's, yeah, so it's kind of all over the place to an extent, but it's really this case where we look and we say, look, if we appreciate gold and we bring this back, and there's no reason why we can't be refining it, going all the way in the value chain, gold jewelry, financial products. So yeah, that's
it. And then how did you get here in the first place? How did you get into gold? Yeah.
So how did I get into gold? Well, so I can't really quite tell the story of gold without going a little earlier. So I was still working as a computer engineer. And I I would feel like I was having previews of myself doing many things. And I looked at which one? Oh, gold, that's strange. So I knew nothing about gold, no interest in mining, really. So I did a lot of research. I met a lot of people. And I realized, now, wow, this is a very high capital type of jump.
Yeah.
Risky. Many things on the higher side. What am I doing? But I knew it was God. I knew it was a call. And I knew it would take time. So he helped with the connection. He made a lot of divine connections getting in. So we started off with getting, the way we even got our first gold exploration license was the same thing, very divine, just connections. So we did that, and at the end of the day, like I said, we became accidental consultants. So we had seen, like I said, previews, we had seen things, and we just didn't quite know how it would all come together. But we knew we had an assignment for gold in Africa. We followed the call. And then just along the way, as we were doing our work, the way we engaged artisanal miners, we did not see the value in them, really. We saw them as pests. They were They were there.
You're rushing.
I'm rushing.
That story, because I read an article where you talked about how you engaged the artisanal miners and how you then ended up registering businesses for each of them.
Yes,
So these are
we're still doing
people
that.
who are in the corners of the country who are barely literate. They don't even know the value of what they're doing. And then you come trying to do your own thing. And then you find all these people there and then you start to build around that. And we would like to go into that story, but we're just in time to take a break. And then just when we come back, we will dive into that. All right, please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Child, when you are weary, hold my hand. Run to me. I am your father and I love you. It is your time of manifestation.
Welcome back to Heart of the Matter. We're still talking to Nere Teriba, and we're about to delve into the journey to gold. And we were just talking right before we took the break. We're talking about these artisans that you found on your way, you know, to exploring things, and you started to create more or less a life for them.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is that they're the pathfinders. So presently, for the most part in Nigeria, how you discover there's gold in a place is because there's people there mining it, these artisans. So when we had a license, we found at first it was almost like these guys are a pest. They're there, they're just mining, we want to get work done, but they're in the way. But then I remember the day I was there one time and I watched this guy, 10 meters. I mean, you just watch these people, like who goes 10 meters in, like with a flashlight, or just strapped to his head. And I just realized we were brave. I mean, and then there was now just a reluctant admiration. And so after that, it went from, okay, we're trying to do our work, but okay, these people, they are the ones in the space. They are working there. How can we make their lives better? How can we understand their needs? So, like you were saying, the solutions came about just because they were the people that were in the space, and also appreciating the work they do, the efforts. I mean, you could, at that point in time, I was only seeing the issues I had with them. But suddenly when I went to the mines and I saw these people, I realized, okay, these people just need a livelihood. They're working hard. It's what's there. Everything else we're telling them is a long story. If you don't address the needs there and all of that, you know, build capacity. So that's how we got into helping the artisans. So we started doing a lot of capacity building. In the process of understanding their needs, this is where the mobile app came from, to register them, and to an extent, just offer services. Because through the app, they can reach out and tell you that there's a problem in the mine. You can also track payments. We tried to do, well, we didn't try to do, we did it. It was successful. It failed, the initial mobile money, because it was too successful.
Oh.
I'll give you an example. So the first time we did this mobile money connection with the app, this was in Chikun, Kaduna. So I'm like, you know what, we're going to register this guy for mobile money is not going to work. If it was cash, it's cash. Forget what's mobile money, they don't speak English, blah, blah, blah. And I argued, I said, you know, I just need one person to do it. And before we did this, we'd worked with a bank, and the bank had promised us, don't worry, we'll open it. Are you sure you will come and open the branch there? Anyway, we had 350 people sign up for mobile money, and the bank couldn't follow through. And the amount of cash they needed, because a gram of gold then, I think, was about 12,000 naira. to the amount of cash they needed to open them. So at the end of the day, the bank was just overwhelmed.
Wow.
They didn't have any agents there.
Wow.
So the whole idea of who would the agent banking be? How would you get the cash from the opener? So, like I said, it died. That aspect, the banking aspect died because the banks were not ready for it. So it's really interesting that, and we found something also similar has happened again when we're registering our miners with businesses and opening bank accounts.
Yeah.
We had a bank that's like, oh yeah, we can handle this. All that. Are you sure? Are you sure you can handle these people? The bank got overwhelmed. They just couldn't follow through.
Wow.
So back to what you're saying about opportunity. It's amazing that there are this group of people that are unbanked because financial inclusion is a big mandate for banks and the central bank especially. There's a big group of people, the miners, especially artisanal miners, they are unbanked. But they're ready to be banked if the banks are ready to come to them and meet their needs. So, but anyway, at the end of the day, realizing, because I guess a story I didn't tell you, before I started doing gold, in between, I was doing lead. I was aggregating lead for a Swiss company. And that was when I thought about gold and I said, you know, you could do the same thing for gold. Just aggregate what's there. Who's mining the gold? Put it together. But gold has a lot more regulations in the world. Gold is almost becoming a conflict mineral. So I said, you know what, for the gold to command the right price, for the central bank to be able to buy the gold, it has to be traceable. You know what I mean? There must be no conflict related to it, all royalties paid, everything. And the visibility, and that's why everyone in the process that's involved in that gold needs to be above ground.
You know what I love so much about this is in everything I hear an underlying tone of selflessness. There is an innate hunger to see beyond yourself be developed, beyond yourself be elevated, beyond yourself be improved. And I think that's where I like to talk about the youth and the younger generation. There's a culture of wanting to serve ourselves, and I think it's just as prevalent. It comes with like being young, I guess. But even starting with wanting to develop these policies because you want other people who come along to have something that they can latch onto, proper structure, to even thinking about the artisans and all of these different aspects that you have started to develop, which really ordinarily you shouldn't really think about if you want to just go straight for your gold, you know. But in terms of leadership, which you are definitely exhibiting, you know, leadership, what can you tell the youth concerning looking at the bigger picture and addressing the bigger picture, thinking about the bigger picture when you are committed, when you are given an assignment or a task or an idea that seems like it's really just very personal to you?
I think the truth about youth is that, like you said, there will always be phases. What I just find that it needs some fine-tuning is how long a phase one sits in self-absorption. Maybe I should say it. And I find that it comes back to identity. I think if, like I'm saying, if we're stuck in, after you taste it, it's almost like the drug addict. You keep needing more, you keep needing more, you keep needing more, you keep needing more. But the truth is, I think to myself, I mean, really, how many X does a 21-year-old need? How many? I mean, but you see, there is that hunger. Yeah, that they just keep wanting more and more, and they just stay in themselves. I also think that self-absorption, the more you look at yourself, someone I know calls it navel gazing. The more you look at yourself and gaze at your navel, the more you gaze. You're not going to come out.
You seem like this brave lady who just decided, oh, mining, and then you now just went.
And everything just worked.
Everything just worked. And as much as everything you're saying is positive and encouraging, I just wanted to be clear that...
Okay. No. Yeah.
the journey, because there are many people who just think, okay now, Shebi, she just did it.
I can do
Me
it.
too. And a lot of people fall short of the journey. So how do you pick yourself up when you hit those roadblocks?
I think, look, in that call, encouragement. You're having people around you, remembering the vision, remembering the call. And here's the thing, I was like a preview of the movie. There are times I read, I'm like, oh my God, Anytime I want to take his uncle, if I had known. And it's almost like he's like, well, I guess if I had known, I may not have gone into it. Something, some aspect, okay. But I realized that honestly, patience has its rewards. And like I was saying about the fire, the longer, the more you learn to wait, the self-discipline, the pain. I will cry and be frustrated about things. I'll take long walks. I'll walk until I'm exhausted in crying and praying and venting. But I cannot explain the reward and the joy of just waiting. Waiting. And after a while, and then things come through. And almost for a while, it feels like, on one hand, it feels like suddenly, but the other hand is like, no, it's been a very long wait. But it's like a long wait. So it's almost like someone who's hunting. You're hunting for deer. You just lay on the tree waiting. So there's that aspect. But I think once you're ready and you realize it's not an easy journey, you will be tested. But you're looking at the joy, the dream, knowing, you know what, this dream is going to come through. Another thing I never mentioned to you are responsibilities. There's 2 people, for sure, on this journey who've died. And I feel a sense of responsibility, because what God literally did, they came into my life. Young people also in this dream for mining. They came into my life, and they passed on something vital, what I needed for the next step. It was a secret key. And within a week of them passing it on, they were gone. Wow. One, a very good friend, I'll say his name. His name is Timmy. He died in 2013, December 2013. Sickle cell, just a sudden, very strange, just about 34. He just had a crisis. We don't understand what happened. But the week before, he had given me a secret that I needed. Then my other friend, Mark, is from Gabon. He came to Nigeria oftentimes helping me out. He died Father's Day, June 18th, 2017, Boko Haram attack in Mali, saving his cousin's daughter. It was 37. And there's that sense for me of responsibility that these are all the people I've met on the way, and we all had this dream. So it's the same thing. There'll be people who may fall out for different reasons, but it's, use military terms and all this. It's that like band of brotherhood of where we're going for this, and it will be rough. Like I said, we encourage ourselves. So yes, if I have not had encouragement, I would not be here. People have been encouraging. There are days I've thought I'm done. I remember there was this day my husband, I remember it was my first license. It took 1.5 years for that license to come out. And if my friend says it, I took a friend with me. He just followed me. He followed me to go check it out, apply for it. He applied for 5 licenses. All his came out in a month. Ooh. My family applied for a license. This came out in 2 months. 1.5 years, still no license. Then when he came, it was the wrong place. I broke down and I cried. I'm not doing this again. And my husband was like, you can't say that. So I've known you've been talking about this mining. But look, all the money I put all the times, like, no, you can't. You have to go back. So it's also having those people in your life. So I know we're over. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, thank you.
Thank you.
I think many things I've gotten, but one of the things I've gotten from this is just looking at the bigger picture and seeing beyond yourself, and being willing to make the sacrifice so that the people after you can actually reap the rewards.
For me, there's a lot, but just what you just said in this last part of the conversation about the sense of responsibility for everybody who's around you. And, I've experienced a little bit of that. So there's always that kind of thing in your ear. You can't give up because of all the people who've invested so much in you. And it's sometimes the ability to see beyond yourself, to see what they see, that made them invest so much in you is enough to just kind of keep you going and say, you know what, this dream must be actualized, it must be achieved. That's, I think, a beautiful thing. Thank you so much, Nere.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for this episode. It's been amazing talking to Nere Teriba. But you can follow the conversation on Facebook and Instagram at HOTM TV and on YouTube at HOTM channel. Until next time, my name is Dipo Ayra Devsi.
And I'm Amotaya.
Have a great rest of your week, guys.